If you ever have an opportunity to go work in a different country, frankly, from my perspective, I think it really helps your resume, big picture wise, as you go through. It's very, very complex, and you need to sit down and be adaptable as you go through. You're going to experience the whole aspect of having different kinds of food, not just once for a really fancy dinner, saying, hey, I'm going to have some a Thai dinner tonight as you go through. It's Thai breakfast, Thai lunch, Thai dinner, Thai dessert as you go through. It really will have a huge impact on your body as you go through, let alone the aspect of your mentality in the process as you go through. The global context is a big thing. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of terror all at the same time because you're there not just for a day, not for a vacation. You're there for work. So how do you manage them as you go through? Look at this one factor over here in compensation. Here you have the United States, $38 an hour by the time you're all done. Look at all of a sudden, you get transferred to the Philippines, you got the same job, and they're paying just over $2 an hour for the same job as you go through. How do you compensate an employee that you're transferring from the United States into the Philippines? Do you continue to pay them $38 an hour when the person sitting next to them physically doing exactly the same job is getting paid $2 an hour? Oh, wait, let's make him a supervisor. But the supervisor in the Philippines is making $4 an hour, and they think they're on top of the world because they're making twice as much as the other person that's next to them. And now you're going to pay them $38 an hour for a different person that's sitting next to them. Those are issues that HR on a global case has to deal with as you go through. Do you keep your mouth shut and say, don't tell anybody what you're making? By the way, nobody ever does that. Eventually, word always gets out no matter what happens, no matter how much you make them be quiet in the process as you go through. So that being said, hourly compensation, by the time you're done looking at manufacturing or management as you go through, there's big disparities in pay. How do you in human resources plan on dealing with that? If it's already a prefab formula, you can always blame it on your predecessors. But if it's a new expansion, that's yours to deal with as you go through. And really, then you have the different types of countries. You have the parent country, the host country, and the third country as you go through. The parent country, as you go through, okay, so here's the home office over here. Well, the home office, you're working home office, we're going to transfer you over to Mongolia. You'll like it. It's really good over there in the process. Frankly, it'd probably be a lot of fun for at least a while as you go through. But all of a sudden now you're outside of that political loop that was over here of being promoted on the inside. You're over here and everybody forgets about you in the process because you're out there in outer Mongolia as you go through. So you're in a host country. You may miss promotions because you accepted something new on behalf of the country. Or maybe you score it big and you open up a brand new mining operation in Mongolia. By the way, they do have a lot of really cool places out there for mining as you go through. But that being said, or a third country as you go through the process, and it's an outside country, you're dealing with that, you're bringing people from a third country into the host country as you go through, or vice versa in the process. It becomes a whole menagerie as to how you deal with the cultural part of the country and the cultural part of your business as you go through on top of that. Then you have the parent country nationals, okay, the host country nationals, and the third country nationals. You may be hiring, you may be in South Africa, and you have a whole series of third country nationals working there as well that have rules that are specific to them as you go through, as well as the host country nationals. So now you're trying to juggle different types of things as you go through. We call them expatriates as you go through in the process as to where you're from in the process. A lot of times you'll see that there's compounds for different people from the same country as you go through. A friend of mine was in Saudi Arabia for several years, and he lived in a compound full of Americans as you go through. They had to do different things because of the fact you had religious faith issues out there, like alcohol, okay, that was okay for Americans inside their compound, but they would never even think of allowing it to come into the compound from outside because that was forbidden by law as you go through the process. So you have different issues like that, and then also people hung together in the process over here. So that being said, there's different things that happen in different countries. It depends where you're at, whether or not you mingle with the population or have a compound as you go through, or what's most comfortable for the employees. Can you sit down there and adapt as you go through, or does the people of the country want them to be together in a compound to maybe watch them as you go through the process? Different types of global participation, Domestics, a lot of companies start domestically, is successful, then they build facilities across the country, but they still face the aspect of cultural diversity issues in the process. If you have a compound, how much diversity can you get inside the compound as you go through? So think about the different aspects of the global participation as you go through. Parent country, corporate headquarters, corporate headquarters, corporate headquarters, corporate headquarters. You go out to a foreign subsidiary as you go through, and then what's going to happen to them as you go through the people that decided to be out there? Will you bring people in from a foreign subsidiary into the corporate headquarters to help bring diversity there in the process as you go through? If you're going to be a real multinational corporation, the answer is yes, you will in the process, and you'll start co-mingling the resources to sit down there and put a better footprint into the host country as you go through. Think about those aspects of it, making certain that diversity isn't just diversity of people in the United States. Diversity is bringing people in on a multinational basis into corporate headquarters. You have better decision-making process to expand further into that country as well. And don't be insular in the aspect of what you're doing in the United States. International, we're always on the lookout for new markets, for products as you go through. Typically, you start by exporting products into them, and then eventually, when you finish exporting, you expand your footprint so big, you put a facility there. You may want to license the contracting over there, or sit down and actually build your own facility as you go through, but make certain you're paying attention to how you're doing the culture, the education, the humans that are working there, called human capital. Watch the political legal system, because the laws are not American laws that happen to be over there. They're that own nation's laws that you'll have to abide by, and also the economic system. So expand your footprint typically as you go in with the sales office, then export products as you go through, and then build facilities as you go through, expand, and then have multiple facilities, not just the manufacturing facilities, but the sales area as you go through the process, as you go through, is normally the pathway. I recommend, if you're going to go into the international world of human resources, take multiple classes on international business. That will help you a lot in the aspect of learning the technicalities, but of all things, learn the people of the country that you're going to go to. As you go through a multinational corporation, typically you're going to have multiple components to be a true multinational. Number one, you're going to hire people from that country into your management to run it as you go through. Number two, you're going to be selling products and manufacturing products in the country as well. Number three, you're going to be selling stock on their stock market there to make certain that the people in that own country can have access to being part of the corporation on a more than just a philosophical basis, but on a financial basis as you go through. A lot of international human resource management problems get magnified, and a lot of times it's good to always employ people of that nation as you go forward. Transnational HRMs, transnational scope, representation, and process as you go through have effective, efficient, and flexible product and service, a lot of times with the synergy through cultural differences. If you run a call center in India, you may have to get people that sit down and they talk on the phone and they follow through, except when they're talking to US customers, they're talking in the middle of the night. Trying to work a midnight shift and be coherent takes an entire lifestyle change as you go through. Just that one aspect of it makes it a different world as you go through, and almost flips it for a lot of people that want to sit there and rise in a transnational organization as you go through. A lot of problems in selecting, training, compensating, and reintegrating managers as you go through. Right now, there's typically on a regular basis about 250,000 Americans on overseas assignments. That fluctuates from years to year. And costs, sometimes you'll have cost of relocation, higher compensation packages. You may have some really strange things there. You may keep the compensation here, but may provide a housing allowance that you don't in the United States. You may provide an education allowance for them to sit down there and put their children into schools where they want them to be as you go through. You may provide them with a car and a driver on top of it. It doesn't cost a lot of money in other countries as you go through. Sometimes for a couple $1,000s a year, you can have a full-time driver with a car as you go through, and all of a sudden that really sweetens the pot, so to speak, for somebody to go to that country in the process. Expatriate managers as you go through, You have to have some technical expertise as you go through, all the different aspects of adaptability, self-dimension as you go through, a relationship dimension, a perception dimension as you go through. Sometimes these things are not natural for an average person to go through because of the fact that all of a sudden it's 24/7. It's not just a vacation, it's something that's really a big thing. And then a cultural intelligence, most of us will approach things thinking that our culture is the best one on planet Earth. Of course, you're going to expect that because this is where you were raised and this is where you're coming from. But park that person in a different country, they think the same thing about their culture, and they'll look in your culture saying, huh, what are you doing? This is how we do things over here. And you may step on a cultural boundary, not even know it, and all of a sudden have an uproar because of something you said or something that you did that totally violates the norms. And it may not be a crime. It may not even be bad. It just may be insulting to them that you disrespected them as you go through. Cultural intelligence are a big deal. Women are treated differently in different parts of the world. In the United States, we certainly do our very best. We fall short of it on a regular basis, but we do our best to try to make them equal in the workplace as much as we possibly can. We watch it as we go through, look at the difference in compensation and their career pathways as well. But that being said, you go in other countries, there's different norms that govern women as you go through. That's an issue sometimes you have to deal with, because if you have a family going to another country, a woman executive, all of a sudden she'll have different types of difficulties than you would have with a male executive as you go through. Pay attention to that in the global context. That's part of HR as you go through. Balancing compensation costs, employee positioning, training, compensation, and then reintegrating employees back into home office. If you have somebody over in France for 3 years, they come back, they had their family with them. You have children that have been there. Sometimes they were there from kindergarten to 3rd grade, and they're used to speaking French every single day. You put in an American classroom, it's going to take the kids probably weeks before they get the hang of rethinking things in English as they go through, because they were in that culture as you go through. That's a simple problem. Put them in a far different culture that is not democratic in the process as you go through, and then bring it back over here. That's a difficult process as well. Think about all the different things of the politics they missed for the 3 years in the home office. And are they in track? Are they getting a promotion? Or did they all of a sudden get put on hold? And somebody that was their colleague 3 years ago, all of a sudden now is 2 levels above them, looking down on them in the process. Those are issues all about human resource management and how well that you do in managing a global context. Take care.